Hey guys, so wanted to do a video on my journey on trying to get rid of spider mites. So I have spider mites on a few of my plants right now. I'm guessing they just spread from one plant to the other. So here's an example of them on my Calathea roseopicta dotty. So these white spots here, really small white spots, are the spider mite eggs. And if you see in between them, there's some of these reddish bugs there. You can probably point some of them out when you're looking at the whole leaf. Those are the spider mites. Another way of confirming you have spider mites if you don't have that many eggs or you can't see it that well on your leaf is wiping it with a white paper towel, and then there will be streaks of bug guts on the towel, like either green or brown colored. It's good to periodically check for bugs on your plants. I've never had spider mites until this season. It's been 2 years. So check the underside of your leaves especially. They usually gravitate around that area, and sometimes maybe on the top too. It's also important to keep your area clean. So if you see it, I would immediately wipe down the space where your plants are once you remove them from that area with soap and water to make sure that there's no spider mites on the table. I would also check all the plants, especially around this plant, since it might have been spreading to the other plants. They're so small that, even a draft of wind, they could transfer to another plant. Then I will take the plant and run it under water, and I'll go ahead and wash it under the sink here, kind of rubbing the leaves slightly, trying to get all the eggs off of it. Also, if your sink is obviously near some of your plants, I would also try to get rid of whatever remnants are in your sink too after you wash them. Alright, so here I am washing it, just slightly rubbing my fingers on it delicately and making sure that the water doesn't drip into the dirt so that the eggs don't fall back into there and potentially hatch and climb back up to eat the plant. So I went ahead and washed all the leaves. Another thing you can do is spray it with your garden hose to spray them off, but I like this method because it's more concentrated on the areas where there's spider mites. And one thing, if you want to do it inside, you probably should put a mesh strainer on your sink so that dirt that might fall off from the top of the soil doesn't clog up your sink. So before the dotty, I treated my Maranta silver band, and I just wanted to show you how it looks when a plant is being eaten up by the spider mites. So basically they just suck up the juices from the leaf. So if a leaf is infected pretty badly, it might just be better to cut the leaf off entirely so it doesn't spread to the other leaves. I think I'm going to cut this one off just because it seems like it's getting spider mites continuously. And one thing to keep in mind as well is to not put the infected plants or leaves in your compost, just in case, because you obviously don't want those guys to be breeding in your compost, and when you repot the plant, it has the chance of having more spider mites. Before the next step, after you washed off all the leaves, I think it's probably best to let it dry because you're going to be coating it with some neem oil later, and I'll show you the process for mixing that. So one way of treating spider mites is using neem oil, which is the vegetable oil extract of the neem tree. What it does when you use this on your leaves is that it coats the leaves, and when the spider mites eat the leaves or suck the juices out of the leaves, they would also consume this neem oil, and it will eventually kill them. You can find these at the health type stores, or a Whole Foods or a local natural food grocery store in San Francisco. I got this at the Rainbow Grocery. So any of those, someone quoted, which is really funny, one of those hippie type shops, you can find this in. And you want 100% pure neem oil. It's sometimes in the beauty section. Well, I found this one in the beauty section, and there's also another brand that's more common called Now, and it comes in a little dropper. This one in particular has a recipe for you, but I can show you what I did based on the other videos that I've watched. You can also find neem oil at big box stores like Home Depot, but the one that I found there, it had 70% clarified hydrophobic extract of neem oil, which is 70%, and then 30% was other ingredients, which is a little vague. So I'm not sure what the extra ingredients are. Other people have recommended 100% pure, so it has that active ingredient azadirachtin, which is what poisons the spider mites. The other one in Home Depot could work too, possibly. I've heard that it might just work as a smothering technique where it has oil, so it would smother the bug so they would die, versus coating the leaves with the neem with the azadirachtin and poisoning the spider mites. Sometimes it solidifies, so you can dunk the whole thing in some warm water, or maybe try to just warm it up with your hand or whatever methods you may have. Sometimes on the bottom it just has little drops of them too. So you will need a spray bottle. I have this 1 quart spray bottle. The ratio that I use for my solution is the same as 2 tablespoons of neem oil to 1 gallon of water. I'm actually not sure. I don't know how long the solution lasts since we're going to be putting some soap in it to emulsify it. So I want to be safe and make sure it's fresh solution. So I actually only use 1/4 of this quart. It gets hard with the proportions because now it's a really small proportion of neem oil to water compared to that 2 tablespoon to 1 gallon ratio. So I just kind of put a couple drops in, since I think it should be like 1/8 of a tablespoon for 1/4 of a quart of water. I've just been warming up the neem oil in my hands, squeezing it since it's a soft bottle. So you can see that there's some liquid now coming out. So I'll just go ahead and eyeball 1/8 of a tablespoon. That should be enough. Now I'm filling it to 1/4 of this spray bottle, so 8 ounces. Looks pretty gross, but you can see that the neem oil is floating on the top, and that's because the solution isn't emulsified, and we need to do that with some soap. So the soap recommended is using natural type detergents. You'll also find that at probably health food stores or Whole Foods, etc., or Trader Joe's even, I think. But I only have Dawn detergent. The good thing to do is to test the solution on 1 leaf first to make sure that it's not going to severely damage your leaf with the chemicals in the soap. I personally just take the risk and don't test it, which is not a good idea, but so far it hasn't really burned my leaves. So I'm going to start with 1 drop first and then shake up the solution to see how well that spreads the neem oil within the solution. So 1 little itty bitty drop. Oop, more than I expected. That's okay. And you gotta shake it. And here you can see after shaking that it is more spread out in the solution. So when you see it completely spread through, then you shouldn't add any more soap. I think every time I just spray it on the plant, I'm just going to shake it a lot and have less soap in it to make sure that it doesn't burn my leaves, just because I don't have the natural soap that's more subtle. So I like to do this outside, but you can probably do it in your tub or in the sink. And I place some newspaper on the bottom just because it's going to be sprayed on the bottom with oils. I take my solution and then I make it well mixed, and then I start spraying it. I also wear gloves. You don't really have to, since apparently it's good for your skin, but you want to coat all of the leaves, front and back, ideally the stems too in case they're on there. It's okay if it gets on the soil too. I don't know if it's necessary, but I just use my hands to coat all of the leaves and make sure that parts where they could be hiding, like in the nooks and crannies that may not be reached by spraying it, get the neem oil. So here you can see that I didn't wash it super well and there's still some eggs here. So the eggs won't be impacted by this solution when it comes to poisoning them, but it could potentially smother them with the oil, and also when they hatch they will eat the leaf and potentially die too. This is why it's important to do this every week or so for a few weeks until you don't see any more signs, because there's different stages of the spider mites. That's why it's also good to try to wash them off as much as possible before spraying, so then you can reduce the eggs too. And for those eggs that I saw that were still there, I just wiped it with my thumb and rinsed my thumb in the sink. I noticed with my Calathea White Fusion that had a bad case of spider mites, you can see this example on this leaf, how it looks, is that when there's new leaves unfurling, sometimes they climb into that section and potentially lay eggs. So it's kind of annoying. That's why you want to do it every week, since they might have eggs in there and then the leaf unfurls, because you can't really coat the whole section of the unfurling leaf. So something to keep in mind. So I'm done with this one and I'm just gonna let it dry. And a good thing to do probably is to also wash your glove or hand between each plant, so you don't want to contaminate the leaves that aren't contaminated already with spider mites, because sometimes they're just concentrated on a couple leaves. My Alocasia reticulata zebrina has had a couple of them on one corner of a leaf, so I'm just going to be proactive and spray it again. I washed it first time, sprayed it, and then it came back, and so I washed it again, so now I'm going to spray it again. But apparently there's also some spider mites that are immune to neem oil, which is the worst thing ever, so hopefully the ones here are not, and I can kill them all. So I just finished my Calathea White Fusion that already has been on the struggle bus for a while, even before the spider mites. As you can see, it reverted on one side, and then some are still coming out with new variegation, which is nice to see. This is the plant where I saw spider mites for the first time, and I've been battling with it on and off for a few weeks now. Some people even proactively spray them with neem oil, but I'd rather just do it when I see a problem. I take back my thoughts on being only reactive to spider mites. I think being proactive and spraying your plants with neem oil is a good idea, because if you have a lot of plants, it becomes a big headache, and once it spreads, it's just never-ending story. I think I saw one spider mite on my Anthurium crystallinum Mehani a few weeks ago, so I'm just semi being proactive to make sure that those are gone. If you have more solution, I guess it doesn't hurt to spray other ones proactively, as long as you just do the leaf test to make sure that it doesn't mess up your leaves. So I think I'm just going to use it once, pour it out, and then next week when I decide to treat my plants again, I'll make a new solution. Also, again, I don't know how long this solution lasts. Might be a couple days. You could do some more research on that, but I would think that the soap would break down the oil further over time. So that was it. We'll just wait for these guys to dry and bring them back in. Hopefully that was helpful for you guys and that you don't have to deal with this issue, but I'm guessing you are since you're watching this video. Definitely remember to make sure you monitor your plants, especially if you have a lot of them. Check on the leaves for the spider mites. When you see them, isolate them, clean your area where you have the plants so they don't spread, and treat it periodically until you don't see any more. If you like this video, feel free to like, and if you want to subscribe to see more videos, I have a lot of haul videos. And thank you for watching. Bye.